Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Thunderstruck Podcast with Tori. I am your host, Tori Ancona. This is episode 15 of covering all things Los Angeles Chargers related, and we are coming off of a big win against the Tennessee Titans, but pretty bittersweet because of Joe Alt, starting left tackle, starting right tackle last year, but filling in for Rashawn Slater, who had a season-ending injury this August, and now Joe Alt sustained another ankle injury to the sprained ankle that he suffered versus the Giants, and after one game back and a few quarters later, he will be out for the rest of the year. And this is a big blow for the Chargers because Joe Alt, difference maker, and I know it's one player, but man, he really makes a huge difference to this ball club. And how will the Chargers overcome yet again more adversity? I mean, this is pretty remarkable that this team is 6-3, potentially 7-3, because we are playing the Pittsburgh Steelers, who Pittsburgh, it's interesting, you beat the Colts last week, congrats, right? But then you lose to Joe Flacco and the Bengals. It's a really hard team to really keep up with. And that's kind of the story of the NFL season so far. A lot of upsets happen, and the Steelers are favorite in this game. So maybe it'll be in another win in the upset column of the regular season. But we will get to that when we get to that. I want to mention Joe Alt have a speedy recovery. That's all I can say about that matter. And, Jamari Salyer filled in for left tackle for the rest of the game and played pretty well, but because of the reports that I just seen, it's really disappointing that he seems like he's not going to get the starting job this week, and it will be Austin Deculus, who's been underperforming ever since he became a Los Angeles Charger left tackle. And you know what? I'm trusting Harbaugh because, this seems to be the same, offensive lineman that we rolled out with against the Colts. And although Justin Herbert got pressured a ton versus the Colts, this is a different defensive line. I will say this is probably one of the top 3 D-lines in all of football. And as a matter of fact, this is probably the strong suit of the Pittsburgh Steelers is their pass rush. And it's really interesting because Austin Deculus as a run blocker is pretty solid, but as a pass blocker, not so much. So maybe the Chargers are relying on the run a lot more this game with Kamani Vidal, Jarrett Patterson, and now Travion Williams, who is stepping in to fill in some touches, while Amarian Hampton, although he's recovering and he is starting to participate in practices when it comes to individual drills, who's trying to make a return at some point this year, probably after the week 12 bye, so that's really nice. But the Chargers need to find a consistent running game. There's some games where Vidal has popped off completely, and then there's some games where he hasn't been that consistent week in and week out, but we will see. I mean, Jarrett Patterson looked pretty decent last week as well with the opportunities he's been getting. So that's very interesting, and he's not really on everybody's radar. So I'm very curious to see how he performs under the lights at Sofi in front of probably only Steeler fans, because, the Steelers have a really big crowd. I remember back in 2019 when the Chargers were at the StubHub Center and Phillip Rivers was still the quarterback, I made a trip down there with my dad to see this game, and, the Steelers won, and all I remember is seeing black and yellow all around the arena. So, it will probably be like that for this game tomorrow night, but it will be way more rewarding to get a win, send those home, to send those terrible towels home, because, that's where they belong. They don't belong in SoFi. They belong in Pittsburgh, the Heinz Field where, Gotham City blew up or whatever. So if you know, But that's besides the point. It would really be amazing to shut those annoying Steeler fans up, I will say that. But before I get off, very interesting decision to put Austin Deculus back at left tackle. Maybe they throw in Salyer later into the game if Austin Deculus is still not recovered from that ankle injury. But speaking of offensive linemen, the Chargers made a trade earlier this week following their win against the Titans and following the news report of Joe Alt being out for the remainder of the year. They trade for Trevor Penning from the New Orleans Saints. And this is interesting because, you know, he's looked at as a draft bust, but so was, you know, maybe Odafe, and see what happens when he gets under the hands of, you know, Jim Harbaugh. He's looking probably to be an automatic re-sign candidate when come the free agency deadline of re-signing players. I mean, Odafe has really been a difference maker to this defense, and I'm really hoping that he steps up the way he did last week, this week. So very, very, very cool to see that. Quentin Johnston, I mean, his best year so far to date, and he was somebody that didn't really, you know, live up to his first round potential in year 1 and 2 with us, you know, first Staley was the head coach, and then he improved but had some off games with under Harbaugh, but now he's getting the right amount of opportunities. They're using him right, and he's been, for the most part, performing really well. And I think he's one of the leading touchdown scorers when it comes to the positions. You know, maybe this is a opportunity where Trevor Penning will, you know, finally reach that first round pick potential. And I'm curious where they would want to put him, if they want to experiment him at left tackle, but or guard or right tackle. But it's nice to see that the Chargers are actually trying to put in an effort to make sure that it is, you know, somewhat decent enough for Justin Herbert to be effective on the field and him being pressured as few times as possible, which I really don't think is going to happen this week. However, I don't think, this is pretty much a bold prediction, but I don't really think he's going to get the best. I don't think, and this is an interesting take that I'm about to say, but I don't think it's going to get to him. Meaning, like, I don't think he's going to rush his, you know, decision making. I don't think he's going to panic. What he is going to do is he's going to run the football. Justin Herbert, this handsome man right here, is going to run the football. Why? First of all, he leads all quarterbacks in rushing yards over Patrick Mahomes. I mean, I know Lamar Jackson hasn't been playing, so maybe if he were to be healthy all year, maybe that wouldn't be the case. But over Josh Allen, over Baker Mayfield, all these quarterbacks that are pretty aggressive on the rushing attack. This man, with a horrible O-line, probably one of the top 3 worst O-lines in all of football, he's been running that football really well. And maybe he does that a lot this game. I remember the last time the Chargers faced the Steelers in primetime at Sofi, this man got 90 yards rushing. So maybe he utilizes that, you know, secret weapon of his in this game. I would love to see it. Maybe even in the play calling. It can't always be improv when it comes to his rushing attacks. Maybe give him a read option. Maybe give him a quarterback draw when you're on the 2-yard line and goal line. He's 6'6". He's a monster. He can run the football a little bit. So maybe give him that opportunity, coach. But, you know, this is going to be an interesting game. I see a lot of people think that the Chargers are easily going to win, but I'm seeing way too many Steelers gonna just come in there, dominate. They have a bad O-line, the Chargers do, and you know what? They're just gonna kill them. I wouldn't do that if I were you. I mean, I remember there was once upon a time, it was week 1, and you have morons on ESPN, you know, saying, easiest bet of the year. Kansas City Chiefs will destroy the Chargers in Brazil. And look what happened. It's very interesting how this National Football Association works. So, you know what? Keep talking, because I just want to hear pin drops when the Los Angeles Chargers, and I'm making this bold prediction, I haven't done this in a month, the Los Angeles Chargers will beat the Pittsburgh Steelers. And if I'm wrong, I'm wrong. But it's not as a terrible take as, you know, those ugly alternative uniforms that the Steelers have. And, you know, I know it could be and I know that's an interesting take, but it's not as terrible as the terrible towels, but 2, the jerseys that the Steelers brought to Sunday Night Football a few weeks ago. Yikes. Double yikes! Like, that was one of the worst jerseys I've ever seen in sports. So, you know, that's how I think about the Steelers, and how fitting that the Steelers, you know, are just weird. They're just weird. I mean, you beat the Colts last week. Wow, congrats. But then you lose to Joe Flacco and the Bengals. Like, who are you? Very interesting, and pretty fitting that they have a diva at quarterback. His name is Aaron Rodgers. Probably, gonna complain a lot this game with his own players. He likes to do that. This receiver of mine ran the wrong route. And yeah, that's his fault. So what a leader he is. I know Aaron Rodgers. If you were to see this Aaron Rodgers, I know you have thick skin. Green 18. Green 18's and hot. I know you have thick skin, right? Remember what that Berkeley professor told you? And pretty fitting that they have a diva at quarterback. His name is Aaron Rodgers, the guy who probably ruined the New York Jets franchise forever. But you know what? Still a Hall of Famer, still a Super Bowl champion. I'm going to give him his flowers. And that was also when I was in kindergarten. So, you know what? Everybody, round of applause for Aaron Rodgers for being dominant when I was, still pooping in diapers. No, he won the Super Bowl when I was 5 years old. So I wasn't doing that at that time. I was probably just, imagining that dinosaurs were coming to life. Shout out Dino Dan. And Dinosaur Train. But anyways, shout out Aaron Rodgers, Hall of Fame career. He had multiple MVP awards. But you know what? You're going to struggle. Why? I think you're going to throw at least one interception. And, Odafe Owe, Tuli Pelotu, Deion Henley, Tier Tart, Derwin James, they're going to get pressure. And Deshaun Hand, who is coming back from injury, which is a big injury return. Deshaun Hand, who looked pretty dang sneaky at that position. So very much looking forward to seeing him in the lineup a little bit more, along with Dean Leonard, to see what he got on special teams, because man, we need the special teams help. Our long snapper Josh Harris is back from injury, so long to bad snaps. So long to the bad snaps we've been seeing from the last few weeks. Bobby Hart is not going to play this game along with Tarheeb still, but it's very promising that Bobby Hart still might be in the lineup at some point this year, because he's been performing pretty surprisingly well. So shout out Bobby Hart. Hope you make a fast recoveries, and along with Tarheeb still. What is going to be my prediction? I haven't made like a bold prediction, like a score prediction in a minute. I'm going to do it this game. I think the Chargers are going to come out on top. It's going to be a dogfight. I think they're going to make adjustments after maybe a rough first quarter or two, trying to deal with the pass rush. But if you put Tucker Fisk in, Scott Matlock in, Kamani Vidal when it comes to pass pro, I think you can make some plays. Keenan Allen will also probably get the Charger all-time catch leading receiver record, which I'm very excited for. Keenan Allen, my favorite wide receiver of all time, getting the most catches ever in franchise history, which is saying something, because there's at least 3 years where he missed a ton of time due to either season-ending injuries like that lacerated kidney or the tore ACL, or back in 2022 when he had that Achilles injury and he missed a lot of chunk of time that year. I'm very, very, very happy for him. I mean, I know he's my favorite wide receiver of all time, but for him to be consistently balling for more than a decade, shout out Keenan Allen. Truly a special player, and definitely a player that I would play in the Hall of Fame. But that's besides the point. I think Keenan Allen would break that record with, all he needs is just one catch. So there's that. I think Kamani Vidal is going to break for you a few runs. Same with Jarrett Patterson. I think Trey Harris might be a sneaky receiver to get some opportunities alongside with, Aronde Gadsden, Ladd McConkey, Quentin Johnson. We have the tools to beat anyone, even with all this offensive line injuries. Because at some point in time, you need to realize that, pretty much every football team in the league, probably 85%, they're pretty banged up. We are just overwhelmingly banged up on the offensive line, which, that pretty much separates, the dramaticness of it all. But at the same time, Chargers overcoming adversity, and if there was a coach in history that overcame so much adversity, it would be Jim Harbaugh. So, you know what? We will see what happens. I think the Los Angeles Chargers upset the Pittsburgh Steelers with the score of 31-27. Game-winning touchdown scored by Keenan Allen. Book it. I think it's going to be a very close game, but you know what? Chargers are going to get a game-winning drive, Keenan Allen touchdown, end. Book it. You guys have a great rest of your day. Have a safe football Sunday. Enjoy your day. Eat good food. I'm going to eat some pizza. I haven't had pizza in a minute, so you know what? Pops and I are just going to dig into a pie, hoping our team is going to come out victorious against the terrible uniform Pittsburgh Steelers. And I just hope that sea of black and yellow jerseys just leave in disgust when the Chargers win tomorrow night. Wouldn't that be something? Boy, do I hope it happen. Knock on wood. So you guys have a good rest of your night. Bolt up and peace.